Are you suffering from plantar fasciitis and lower back pain? If that's you today, I've got my best tests to work through to determine what's causing that discomfort, my best short-term relief so we can get quick pain relief because, hey, who doesn't want to sleep better tonight? And my best long-term intervention so that you can overcome this once and for all without shot surgery or medication. Let's jump in. So first things first, let's go ahead and test and understand the mechanisms of what causes plantar fasciitis and how that contributes to low back pain. When standing in ideal posture, your foot should be symmetrically placed with an arch underneath the foot. So many times the arch collapses and the foot turns inward, moving us into what's called pronation. Pronation is this inward rotation of the foot and ankle where the arch collapses, placing excessive stress and tension on the big toe, as well as the inside of the heel. If you get early wear and tear on your shoes through the inside portion, or if you have your callus or bunion along the inside of the foot, this might be a first warning sign. And when the foot moves into medial rotation and pronates, you're also putting excessive tension on the Achilles tendon and the plantar fascia. Fascia you can think of as the covering over sausage. It keeps everything together, all of these muscles and tendons all together, and it's very intricately neurally connected. So it helps me to understand where my body is in space. Also can bring some tension to the surface if we have undue muscular tension, like in plantar fasciitis. It's through the fascia. It's at micro tears or increased tension of the fascia that are sending those pain signals. So you can imagine if the calcaneus, the heel bone, if that is falling inwards and the foot is falling inwards, now we're placing excessive tension through the gastroc, which is the calf muscle, the soleus, which is the little brother of the calf muscle that nobody knows about. Those two muscles come together to form the Achilles tendon. That comes into the heel, and then the intrinsic muscles of the foot are all being cramped and not utilized because we're not pushing off of our whole foot when we're walking through our gait cycle. This is where the limping comes into play, and a poor gait sequence is really, really important that we're going to talk about at the end of the video. So make sure you stay tuned for that. So as we're pronating, not coming off of the foot, the ball of the foot and the toes, and we start to limp, our pelvis starts to shift excessively, which can create some irritation at these small joints in the lower back called the lumbar facets. The lumbar facet, as you can see right here, is where the upper vertebrae meets the lower vertebrae, and they really help to facilitate flexion and extension of the spine, but really keeps everything in a congruent fashion. Excessive rotation or torsion, like in a compensated gait pattern, can really irritate these tissues and create some of this lower back pain. So you can see really quickly how this whole thing can spiral out of control if we don't get it taken care of one piece at a time. And that's exactly what we're gonna do today, is work our way up. So here's our test. First things first, we're gonna grab a small step stool. I wanna make sure that my foot doesn't turn out for this, that I'm staying in line with the second and third toe, the knee and the hip all in line. I wanna bring myself into a bit of dorsiflexion. So I'm gonna drop the heel down off the step and I'm gonna get to a little bit of stretch there. Then I wanna see if I can pull back the toes, either bring them up to me actively, or we may need to help that toe extension. And by doing so, we're putting that plantar fascia and Achilles on stretch. And does that create pain? The other place we may have discomfort is right at the base of the heel or into the midfoot where the ankle arch is supposed to be. So this is where that plantar fascia really gets stretched and tensed when we go into pronation. So is there discomfort there? And the telltale sign of plantar fasciitis is first thing in the morning, those first few steps out of bed. Do those hurt? And the reason for that is simple. Think about the way that you sleep. Most people sleep on their side, but everybody sleeps with their toes pointed. So we're in a shortened position to the calf and the Achilles all night long as we rest. Then the first thing we do in the morning is stand up and try to walk or try to stand, and our feet go to 90 degrees. That's the biggest stretch we've felt in about 8 hours. And so one of my simple but really, really effective tricks is to either try what's called a Strassburg Sock, which is a little device that you can put on your foot to help you maintain a small amount of stretch during sleep. I'll go ahead and link that in the description below if you want to check that out. Or make sure that the blankets are pushed up against you so it really pushes you into a bit of dorsiflexion as you sleep. It doesn't need to be perfect, but anything closer to a 90-degree angle or a neutral angle is better than a really plantar flex angle all night long. So I was mentioning earlier that there's a lot of tension on the Achilles and the plantar fascia. I got this stretch from Jeff Cavalieri, shout out to him. Fantastic stretch that I've been using with patients for years. But this is a dynamic wall calf stretch. We've all seen this stretch where you can either pull your toes up and lean into the wall, drop off the step, lean there. This stretch actually gets into the calf and the soleus and the Achilles while moving you into supination, which is where your foot wants to and needs to be. What we're going to do here is push into the wall, and then I'm gonna drive my opposite leg up and across my body to create the length through my foot and open my ankle into supination. So it's going to look a little something like this. I'm going to stretch my right leg for you guys. And the old school runner stretch where I push against the wall is just like so. I'm creating a little force here and length through the Achilles with my second and third toe through the center of my knee, creating force through the glute, trying to push my heel down, but not letting it. Here's where the magic happens. So what we're going to do is create that force, feel the stretch. Now I want to come across with my opposite leg, which moves me into a bit of supination and helps to really engage that calf, Achilles, and plantar fascia. Personally, I like to hold that for about 5 seconds or 1 to 2 breaths. And then I'm going to kick out with my opposite leg to engage my glute, have a breath, and then work back through. So this is more of a dynamic motion, so we don't hold it quite for our 20 to 30 seconds. Just that bit of length coming through, activating, and driving forward. And I could do that for 10 to 15 reps, 3 to 5 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day. Always make sure to train both sides because we don't want one side to lead to dysfunction in the next side. And the other thing that we're going to do to build up the intrinsic muscles, the muscles of the foot and ankle underneath that foot that are surrounded by the plantar fascia, is to learn how to build your ankle arch. And this is such a key component for posture, balance, and just the strength and health of your foot overall so that you don't move into excessive pronation. This has a few parts, so stay with me here. It's a little challenging. It's more like mentally challenging for the foot than physically challenging, but you can try it sitting at your desk, having a cup of coffee. It may take a little bit of time, so be patient with yourself. First step is we're going to curl the toes under and create a C shape with the foot. We want to catch a contraction right under the arch. You see how that arch grew there, and you're going to hold that. Your foot may feel like it wants to cramp. That's a good thing. Those muscles aren't used to working, and they go, hey, hold on, we haven't done this in a while. You have to train it back into that. Next, what you're going to do, once you can get this big C shape and big contraction, is you're going to hold and maintain that contraction. We're going to slide the toes out slowly. Right before it's about to give, you want to hold it for a second and then let it go. Okay. Let's wiggle those piggies around, and then we're going to reset. Hopefully, the next time we can make the C, get the contraction, slide out just a bit further, maintain, and then we're going to work through. We're going to work through that point of extending out, getting the foot back down while maintaining the arch until you can get the ball of the foot, the outside of the fifth, the center of the heel down to the ground. Now you want to be able to maintain that for 3 to 5 seconds as you move forward. As you progress and you're getting better and better, we're going to go straight to the answer, which is pulling the ball of the foot, the outside of the fifth, towards the heel to create your arch. And then we're going to make it functional by standing and weight bearing through that arch and balancing through that arch because, hey, that's what life calls us to do. And we need that in order to walk well. And as simple as it sounds, walking well can be really challenging to a lot of people. We can have a few things going on if our tendency is for that foot to pronate, which causes the knee to fall in, the hip to drop, and yes, that lower back to be irritated. So we see a couple presentations. One is when we're going through mid stance, that the foot drops in. Two, a little more common, that the pelvis drops and our shoulder sinks ever so lightly into that side, which is where that pain point of the lower back discomfort can be. So if you want to check your lower back pain real quick, for the lumbar facet, we're going to go back and lightly to the side. And does that recreate your pain? If so, is it the same thing when we're standing? Does the foot collapse in? Does the knee collapse in? And does that hip drop? We may be dealing with some hip weakness. So we can work through a few things, some hip tension with something like a pigeon stretch, where we're crossing the leg into a figure 4 position and then bringing the chest up and through to get that deep stretch of the hip capsule and the glute muscles. And this is one of those exercises where we can hold the static stretch for 20 to 30 seconds as well. Another really great one for the lower back is the pelvic tilt, where we can do 10 to 15 repetitions back and forth to the point of tension, rolling our pelvis backwards, rolling our pelvis forwards to the point of stretch. And this really lubricates and desensitizes the lumbar facets so that they can move well and freely. And between those couple stretches and a few more, if you want to go ahead and check out some of the other videos that I've got on my channel, this really takes you through full mobility of the lower back, middle back, and hips, which is really necessary for this problem. But these two guys should feel really good today. And finally, to really strengthen and stabilize, we're gonna work into a super clamshell. To activate your core, you're gonna draw the belly button in and wide, lightly press out on your outside aspect. I call this picture tummy. If you and I were gonna take a selfie together, what I might do is draw my belly button in, chest comes up. You know, we've done that. We take it from nice and high so we don't get the double chin. Who hasn't been there, right? Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you know what I'm talking about down in the comments. Drive your shoulder blade into the mat so you're bringing your elbow down and in so the chest comes up again. We're gonna squeeze the tar out of our bottom glute to drive our hip forward right there. And then we're going to squeeze the top glute as our knee comes up. We want to hold that for 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, everything comes back down. Boom, touches. Core stays engaged. I can continue to breathe. I'm driving up and through. Knee comes up, bottom glute squeeze, top glute squeeze, core's engaged, shoulder blades engaged. I'm rocking. And if you need a progression of that, I love this one. Leg extends. From this position, we're going to come up and out, drive forward and through, and then we can come back to touch, and then we're going to squeeze as our leg, hip comes up and back lightly. Make sure you're leading with the heel to feel this in the side hip at the top, back through, and then come back to touch here. You're pulling to extend from your center, not reaching and losing core stability. So you don't want your back to arch. You want your hip to extend. Same thing with the hand. You don't want the mid back to extend. You want the arm to elevate. So we're learning how to do that, learning how to move the appendages with proper core stability. Usually 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 12 is about right there. You're gonna feel the burn within the first few if you do it right. Squeeze those muscles that you're contracting. Learn how to breathe through that. And that, my friend, should help us to move well as we can feel the glute, bending all the toes through the second and third toe, pushing off through the hip, staying steady at the trunk, moving your opposite arm and leg forward as you're moving forward with your gait cycle. All right, and that should do it, my friends. We've done a couple things today that you should be really, really proud of. Number one is you've been able to improve your dorsiflexion and the elasticity of the muscles of the calf, the Achilles, and the plantar fascia, so I can get a better heel strike. You've learned to work through symmetry to push off of all the toes as they bend through your walking pattern and to push through the glute so you can keep your pelvis steady. Two, and as you progress in functional movement training, we want to work into what are called reciprocal patterns. So opposite arm and leg work together in order to improve your walking pattern so that this stuff doesn't come back to continue to be a nagging problem. Once you solve all those things, let me know how you feel in the comments below, if that has been ever explained to you before. And then I've got one other question for you. What should we name our little friend here? Otherwise, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, sharing it with a friend, liking this. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.